I went to my father's funeral. But when I looked in the casket, it wasn't him. My father and we hadn't spoken in 8 years. Not since the divorce. Not since he walked out. He remarried. Started a new family. New wife. New kids. A whole new life, that didn't include me. I told myself I didn't care. That I'd moved on. But when my half-sister called, and told me he was dead, I felt nothing. Just emptiness. She said the funeral was in 3 days. A small town. 2 hours north. I almost didn't go. But something pulled me there. Maybe guilt. Maybe closure. Maybe I just needed to see it with my own eyes. The funeral home was small. Old wallpaper. Faded carpet. The kind of place that smelled like flowers and regret. There were maybe 15 people there. Strangers, mostly. My half-sister sat in the front row. Her mom beside her. They didn't look at me when I walked in. I found a seat in the back. Kept my head down. The service was short. Generic. A pastor who clearly didn't know my father, reading from a script. When it ended, everyone started filing past the casket. Paying their respects. I waited until the room was almost empty. Then I walked up. I stood there. Looking down. And my stomach dropped. It wasn't him. The man in the casket had my father's build. Same gray hair. Same weathered hands. But the face was wrong. Older. Thinner. Different nose. Different jawline. This wasn't my father. I looked around. No one else seemed to notice. My half-sister was crying in the corner. Her mom was comforting her. Everyone was mourning, a man they thought was my father. But I knew better. I leaned closer. Checked the name card on the casket. Robert Mitchell. That was his name. My father's name. But this wasn't him. After the service, I pulled my half-sister aside. That's not Dad. She stared at me like I was crazy. What are you talking about? The man in the casket. That's not him. She looked confused. Then angry. You haven't seen him in 8 years. People change. He got sick. Lost weight. I shook my head. No. That's not. She cut me off. You don't get to do this. You weren't here. You didn't watch him die. You don't get to show up now, Anne. Her voice cracked. She walked away. I left the funeral home. Sat in my car. And I called the hospital. Asked about Robert Mitchell. Date of death. Cause. The nurse confirmed it. Robert Mitchell. Age 62. Died of heart failure. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Are you calling about the other Mr. Mitchell? The other? Yes. We had 2 Robert Mitchells admitted that week. Same name. Similar age. One passed. The other was discharged 3 days ago. I drove to the address listed on his discharge papers. A small apartment. Run-down building. I knocked. And the door opened. My father stood there. Alive. Thinner. Tired. But, alive. He looked at me. And for a moment, he didn't say anything. Then. I didn't think you'd come. He told me everything. The hospital mixed up the records. Called his ex-wife. Told her he was the one who died. By the time he was released, the funeral was already planned. He said he tried to call. To tell them. But no one answered. So he let them bury the other man. And he just disappeared. He looked at me with hollow eyes and said, "Maybe it's easier this way. They've already grieved. They've already moved on. Why go back, when no one really wanted me there anyway?" I didn't know what to say. So I just stood there. And for the first time in 8 years, I looked at my father. Really looked at him. And I realized, he'd been dead to me long before that funeral. I left. And I never told anyone what I found. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.